righty, let's go ahead and I guess let's shut that door. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have some people here in class that I'll engage with, ask questions. That can be my audience. If you are joining us, and I see some of you guys are coming in online, if you're joining us online, drop a comment in. I can see it. That means you can also participate and ask questions. I absolutely love it when you guys comment, and this class is going to be very functional. Like, you are going to have some skills that you walk away with. Ideally, you put them into your business right away. So we'll go ahead and jump in. Move my little mouse so we can do this. My name's Christy Jenks. I'm going to be your instructor today. I am a local real estate agent, mom of 7, Tom Ferry coach, and team leader at the Big Helper Real Estate Group here in the Phoenix metro area. I teach these classes because I love giving back to my community, but also because I'm always looking for agents that, are thinking they might want to join a team. So if you want to know more about my team and what we're offering here, you can go over to bighelpergroup.com, and we'd love to see if a team might be for you. So today we're going to be talking about 5 CRM hacks to increase conversion. And I'll let you know, we're going to go fast. So if you have questions, make sure to drop them in the comments. I can see them on my side if you are tuning in through the Resilient Realtor Facebook page, or if you're watching this on YouTube. So let's jump in. The slides can be downloaded at bighelpertraining.com. So if you want a copy of the slides, you can go there after class and you'll find the resources for this class. So the whole premise of this class is that a lot of times when I office out of the Forum co-work space, and I teach classes for the real estate school. And a lot of times people will stop me in the hall and they'll say, hey, I have a question about this, or I have a question about that. And I started to see some themes arising. And basically it came down to a lot of lead maintenance and calendaring and scheduling things. And I said, oh my gosh, we've got to teach a class on this. And so my hope is that when you attend these classes, that you can stop the real estate roller coaster. I think if you've been in sales long enough, you know what I mean, right? Drop a comment online if you know what I mean about the real estate roller coaster. Terry in here is nodding his head yes, that he totally gets it. So what is the real estate roller coaster? Well, we work really hard, we get a lot of leads, and then all of a sudden we get contracts. What happens when we get contracts?
We get super busy and we're handling all the contracts, and then we're not lead generating anymore.
Exactly. We get busy, we stop lead generating, or we start to neglect our leads or our CRM or our database because we got all these deals. Well, then those deals close, and then what happens?
We have nothing. We got to start all over again.
Yeah. So that's that real estate roller coaster. Is we get we have nothing going on. So we work hard, we get a bunch of business, we get it all under contract. We neglect the things that got us the contracts, and then all of them close, and we're like, oh my gosh, I got to work hard again. So it's this constant, I have money, I don't have money. And so the skills that we're going to go over today is I want you to avoid the real estate roller coaster. I don't think there's a single person, we've got 5 people that are watching this online. I don't think any of you guys want to have this kind of business. We'd much rather have a stable, consistent business. And that's my goal for today. So the whole idea behind this class is it doesn't matter what CRM you're using. We're going to focus on stopping the roller coaster. So let's go into just a couple little stats about lead follow-up. And I actually asked this question this past week on the Resilient Realtor Facebook page about how many times people follow up with a lead. And the answers varied. The industry standard says that 43% of sales agents give up after one attempt, right? So almost half of us give up after just one call, right? 68% give up after the second attempt, right? Holy cow. By the third attempt, 80% of agents have stopped trying to follow up. And 95% have given up by the fourth attempt. So I think it's pretty safe to say that we're giving up too early, right? Just out of curiosity, Terry, how many times do you follow up with a lead before you say, hey, this lead's unresponsive? 10. So Terry has a standard of 10, which I think is actually really great. So I just want to stress that if you're being honest with yourself, you're probably giving up too early on following up with your leads, and you're not consistent enough, right? And that's why I said this class is all about CRM hacks and making sure that we're doing that. So it basically boils down to 5 things. There are 5 things that every lead needs to have in your CRM. And I'm not going to go into what CRM you should use because there's a lot of different ones out there. If you have questions, I'll absolutely give you some guidance. But I do want to take a moment to discuss what's the difference between a CRM, a contact management, and a lead follow-up system, right? So there are programs out there that just manage people. And I want you to think electronic what are those called? What is that thing?
Rolodex.
Rolodex. Thank you. The word, I was like,
myself.
Yeah. So a CRM can be as simple as an electronic Rolodex, which is where you just put your people, right? So name, phone number, email, and then I can keep track of them. I know Buffini has some stuff to help you, monitor people. That's just a client relation management software. But we also have what's called lead follow-up software. And that's really, what we're going to be talking about today. So we're talking about not just managing the clients, but actually increasing conversion through lead follow-up. And that's where these 5 things come in. So we're going to break down each of these 5 things, and you will be able to put these inside your CRM. And if you're asking yourself what CRM I should use, these 5 things need to be able to be done within your CRM to have the highest level of conversion, okay? So let's drop into the first thing. The first thing that you need to do is you need to identify the lead stages, right? So I put here a list of lead stages to give you an idea. Now I'll tell you, if you're using KV Core, they might name them some different things. Like they might say lead, and then they might say hot, right? They're going to have some different ones. If you're using FollowUp Boss, everybody comes in as a lead, then you can customize. So that's one of the things I do like about FollowUp Boss. FollowUp Boss allows you to customize your stages. We use Sierra Interactive. I've used BoomTown. I've used Commissions Inc. I've used KV Core. I've used all these different systems. And the naming convention sometimes can't be customized. So you have to identify your lead stages and create definitions from them. One of my coaching clients sent me her lead stages this morning with definitions to roll out to her team, and it was perfect, right? So Terry, what's a new lead mean to you?
A new lead means to me that I haven't contacted them and they just rolled in. And so it's new. As soon as I've reached out to them at all, even if I didn't talk to them, they're not new anymore.
Okay. So here's what I love about that. Terry knew exactly what a new lead meant to him. And that meant new, never been contacted, right? And then he calls that lead and he moves them. They're no longer new, right? So you need to have a stage to identify incoming leads that have never been touched. Whatever the name of that is, that's what that section is for. And you need to have a clear definition. Now, when you do call someone and they pick up, well, at that point in time, we're going to move them into a different category. So some of the suggested categories I've given you is, qualify would be someone that we haven't spoken to yet. We're trying to get a hold of them. So Terry leaves someone in qualify for at least 10 attempts or 30 days. We usually try to do 10 attempts and over 30 days. That doesn't include the text messages campaign and the email campaigns. When he says 10 attempts, that's 10 times him. 10 times he's calling the lead. So that's qualify. Now, if I talk to the lead and they're absolutely ready to buy, right? They're pre-qualified, they're ready to go. Well, that's someone we would consider like a hot lead or a right now ready to go lead. So whatever in your CRM, whatever that stage is called, you reserve that status or stage for people that are right now business. Now, if they're not ready right now, they usually fall into 2 buckets. a short-term nurture or a long-term nurture. So your CRM, if you can't manipulate your stages and your statuses, like if it's canned from the system, you just need to then use tags to apply that, and you would put everybody into a nurture bucket or a warm bucket, something like that. But essentially there are two, it's short-term or long-term, because the frequency that which we connect with these people is going to change depending on the stage that they're in. But then of course you've got a pending stage, a closed stage, an archive stage. I like to have a listing sign stage so that, they can go from hot to listing sign before they go to pending. And then of course, trash. And the difference between trash and archive is, archive might be held for unresponsive leads, right? Leads that I never was able to get a hold of, or I call them and they say, we're not interested. Then I move them to archive. Trash is only reserved for inaccurate information. And if someone says they're going to chop off your head, I always joke, like someone once said that to me. They're like, if you ever call me again, I'm going to chop off your head. I was like, trash. I do not need that in my life. So the difference between trash and archive is unresponsive people, or it's I'm not interested right now, because you could go back to your archive, say once a year, and call through there. Sometimes we call those pawn leads where, we can go back and work those. But essentially an archive is a non-active lead stage. So your active lead stages are going to be your new, qualify, hot, short-term and long-term nurture. We're actively trying to get that lead through the pipeline. Let me know if you have any question about stages. This is fundamental to working in your CRM. You have to have a clear understanding of where to move people, because you're going to be a busy agent. You're going to have things going on. If you only have 10, 15 minutes to jump into your CRM, you need to know exactly where you're going. You're going to go to an active client and you're going to go to the bottom of the funnel client, which is going to be one of those hot categories, right? That right now business. You're going to identify those leads first and work them. Then if you have a little bit more time, we're going to go through our qualify leads and we're going to go through new leads. So many times I see agents, they just have these huge, they have, several hundred people in their CRM, and there's no organization to how they find the people that are actually working, and they get overwhelmed. And what happens when we get overwhelmed, right? We just shut down. So someone asked, can you explain signed listing? So if you are using a system like FollowUp Boss where you can customize your stages, listing signed is a seller lead that has a signed listing agreement, but they're not under contract yet, pending, right? So let's say that I get this lead. Terry comes in as a lead from my home valuation page. He comes in as new. I go into the CRM, I call him, and I get a hold of him, and I set a listing appointment. I'm going to move him to hot, right? Because I set the listing appointment, and and everything looks like we're moving forward. Well, I do the listing appointment, and then I get the listing signed. He's no longer hot. He's actually a listing signed. Now, if you don't have that stage or that status, then they would just stay in hot until they move to pending, right? Because listing signed means I've got an executed agreement. You could also have signed buyer broker stages as well. I do know, I do have some people that I work with that use that as, they're basically a buyer that's signed. You could also use tags, and tags would definitely help. So thank you. Thank you, Lori, for that question. I thought that was a great question. Okay, let's move to number 2. Let me go back. I gotta remember where my mouse is. So this is just to give you a visual of how a lead moves through the pipeline. Okay. So the reason that we start with the stages is because leads move through your system in a very, in a very direct way. And so this is just to give you an idea. And we put in some helpful information on how much automation should be involved and how much of the human time should be involved. And I picked this up from GGMS coaching. They do a great job of helping us understand automation versus human action. So when a new lead comes in or a lead in qualify, The 20% of agent time is you making the calls. That 80% of automation is what we're going to be talking about through the other stuff. And that's the automatic text messages, the automatic emails and things that are going out. But typically a lead moves through the pipeline like this. So even if you don't have all those extra stages that I showed previously, you're still going to have a pipeline and rules of how a lead moves through the pipeline. That's the thing that you need to understand, because then you know how to work the database. So the second thing, so number one was we got to have the right stages, and our leads have to be in the right stage. The second thing, and this is kind of one of those things like if it happens in Vegas, it stays in Vegas. We joke and say, if it didn't happen in the CRM, it didn't happen. What that means is all of our calls are logged in the CRM, right? If I called the lead, but I didn't update the notes and log the call in my CRM, then it didn't happen, because the CRM, if you put junk in, you're going to get junk out, right? Your database or CRM is only as good as the information that you put into it. So one of the things that we do is we log every single call and we update the notes. And what we're specifically looking for are lead milestones. So I've given you some icons right here. We actually, all the agents on our team, we save these little icons in our phones as a note or as a shortcut. And when we go into a lead, one of the first things we do is we copy and paste this into the lead, because now let's say I called you and you didn't answer, and then I call you tomorrow. I know what I'm going after. I want to go after, some people call it LP mama or LP mammal, right? What we're looking for is, what location are you interested in? What price point are you interested in? What's your motivation in your time frame? Like how, what does this look like for you? Are you working with an agent? Are we pre-qualified? And then, of course, going for the appointment and setting the appointment. And then the L on the end is, do they have a listing to sell, right? Research shows that 70% of everybody that has a home, that's buying a home, has a home for sale that they need to sell. So updated notes is so critical. If you make a call and have a conversation with somebody and don't reflect that in your notes, like what could potentially happen?
You call back and say the same thing, and they're like, I already told this to you. You seem like an idiot.
You look like an idiot, in Terry's words. Absolutely. So a lot of things can happen. One, in the beginning of your business, you may think that you're going to remember all these things, right? Like you're going to remember all these leads, you're going to remember every conversation, but I can promise you that the more people you meet, the less likely it is that you're going to remember those nuances. So you want to capture in your notes the name. If they tell you their dog's name, if they tell you that they, grew up in XYZ place, whatever they tell you in that conversation, capture it in the notes section of the logged call. And then if you can, pin the note to the top. That's kind of what we like to do using these icons. So let's say that when I did talk to Terry, he was able to tell me he's looking in Santan Valley and he wants to be under 350,000, but then he had to go, right? Well, the next time I call back, I already know what I'm going after. I want to dig into more of his motivation. I want to understand a little bit more of why they're moving and when they want to be there. And are they still thinking Santan Valley because, X, Y, and Z? So the summary or the icons, we call them lead milestones is what we call them. Those really help guide your conversation. And that's going to help increase conversion. But it's not only that, it's from an efficiency standpoint. If you call a lead and then have to go through and say, okay, where am I at with this lead? I don't even remember the last time I spoke to them and what did we say? You got to go through all that. That's extra time that you could have called another person, right? So from an efficiency standpoint, you just want to make sure that you are capturing the calls and that you're getting as much information. So we use these lead milestones, or you could do something like LP Mama to help guide your conversations, and that's going to increase your conversion. If you need, you know what, Kelsey, we should post the LP Mama scripts in the resources, because we do have some scripts that we use to help with in conversion. Most of it's just question based, which is a great practice when we have leads coming in. So let's talk about number 3. It absolutely blows my mind that agents will pay for leads or generate leads at an open house and then not send them homes, right? Like, so I see this go down a couple different ways. One, they'll use something like, well, I'm going to put you on an automatic search. Well, I'm sorry, but when you say that, nobody feels special, right? If I wanted to be put on an automatic search, guess what? Zillow's sending me homes. Guess what? I'm also getting them from Redfin, and I'm getting them from Trulia, and I'm signed up on 4 other agent websites, right? The whole reason that we are going to put people on an EAlert, and what an EAlert, here's an example to the right of what an EAlert looks like. It is an automatic email that's completely branded to you and comes from you daily of homes. Now you can, a lot of times these systems can customize, like if you want to send it weekly, twice a week, monthly, every single day, or even instantly. Every single buyer that comes into your CRM needs to have an EAlert. They need to be getting homes from you. And if your CRM doesn't do that, then you're going to do this through your MLS. Okay, you're going to use your MLS to do this, and then you're going to check this off on the lead, like apply a tag, do a note, like it's part of your checklist. So do it from your website if possible. If you don't have an IDX on your website, then do it from your MLS. But every lead needs to have this. And then there's a couple tips that I want to give you to make this a little bit easier. So you should create general EAlert. So let's take the lifeline of a lead again. The lead comes in from homes.com, from Zillow, from Realtor, from Google pay-per-click. It doesn't matter. The lead comes in and it goes into your new status, right? Never been touched. You make the call, you didn't get a hold of them, you move them to qualify. Well, I don't know anything about them. I know maybe that they inquired about that home over on Indigo Bay, but I don't know anything else. So one of the recommendations I'm going to make is that you have some saved searches in both your CRM, if you have an IDX, or in your MLS. So here's a couple examples of our saved searches. We've got like a general city of Maricopa. We've got a general Maricopa, Pinal County, and we've got a general Southeast Valley home search, right? So we know typically, if they're looking at a home in Florence, we're going to send them that Maricopa, Pinal County. If they're looking at a home in Maricopa, we're going to send them that Maricopa. If they're looking anywhere, Chandler, Gilbert, Mesa, Queen Creek, blah, 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 general Southeast Valley. And that it says general as it's coming across. So if you look over here, this one was 3-bedroom, 3-bath pool spa, City of Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, surprise search. And then the other thing, and we just picked this up in the last year, that's really, it's a great idea. In you can do this in your MLS too, because you know how you can have a subject line of the email that you're sending out. We actually put our phone number in there. So this one says right here, 3 beds, 3 bath, pool spa, City of Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, surprise, search. To change your search, text or call, and then the phone number. This is it's such a no-brainer to me because it really stands out from every other agent that's not doing that. So I'm giving you guys my secret. If you're in my market now, you know how we send out our EAlerts. But here's what's cool about it. By having these general EAlerts, then they just come into the database. I don't know what they're looking for. I'm just going to put them on a general EAlert. And all of my language moving forward is going to say, hey, I'm sending you, homes in the general area. I'd love to learn more about your search and set up something very specific for you. Right. So now I'm telling them, I'm recognizing this is just a general one. We really want to move you to a custom list or a VIP list. So the benefit of this is that they're getting an email from you every single day with your face, with your brand, and of homes that are going to be of interest to them. And so again, if you cannot do it through your CRM, you need to do it through your MLS. It's absolutely a critical piece to converting leads. So what about seller leads, right? What do we do for them? Should we put them on an EAlert? Absolutely. It just is a different one. We're sending closed properties in the vicinity that they come from. Typically seller leads come in with an address. So we'll set up like, here's what's going on, like a market update email in your neighborhood. So again, they're still getting that frequency, that email that's going to tie them back to you. The whole goal is to get them off of our competitors' websites and into using our website. Okay, let's go on to number 4. This is where, this is where I see a lot of agents struggle. They get overwhelmed with leads coming in and having to manage all of the follow-up. So the fourth thing that you should have on every single lead, and when you're picking what CRM you should use, is all about action plans that have both email and texting. So let's just talk about this for a minute, because it is such an important part of conversion. So in that graph that I was showing you guys earlier, when a lead comes in, we don't know if they're at the top of the lead funnel or at the bottom of the lead funnel. And we're busy people. We have to use our time wisely. So we're going to put them on some sort of a drip campaign or an action plan. Again, your system may call it something else, but basically it's the automated emails and text messages that go out on your behalf. And the reason that agents don't do this is because, well, let me ask you, Terry, what would keep you from getting everybody on an action plan?
Just not thinking that action plan was for them.
Okay, not thinking the action plan was there. What if your team didn't create the action plans for you?
Yeah, creating the action plan would probably do it, because I'm lucky I'm on a team. Action plan's already there. I just
Yeah, most agents struggle with this because there isn't an action plan that's readily available. So to break this down for you, what I'm going to recommend is that you start with your most urgent need, right? So if you are generating Google pay-per-click leads, if you're generating Facebook leads, create an action plan for Facebook leads, right? Because you're paying for those leads, you might as well start with an action plan for there. Like, we have probably over 200 action plans, but it took us time to get there. We didn't go from 0 to 200, right? Like, that takes time. So if you currently right now don't have a single action plan, I want you to identify what's the lead source that I'm paying for, right? And start with a new lead. It's a new Google pay-per-click. I'll also let you know that a lot of our action plans have similar themes or say the same exact thing, but instead of saying you found us on Google, it says you found us on Facebook, right? Or we connected through Zillow, we connected through Realtor.com, or you registered directly on our website. So, but the sequence and the follow-up is pretty much the same. So if you're starting with a blank slate, just do one at a time and start with the lead sources that you're paying for. And then we can move into, some of the other ones. So, my recommendation is you definitely want new, right? Because converting leads, they're going to get all those touches. You want a new plan. Then you want a qualify plan, right? So your new plan is actually only probably 2 steps. It's going to be an email and a text message. Then you're going to make that call and you're going to move them over to, the next stage, which is qualify. That's going to be a 30-day plan that will consist of several emails and several text messages, because you're going to be making the calls. So that qualify plan can actually be the same plan for all the different lead sources, because I say that hesitantly. Zillow is if you're using like Realtor.com or Zillow as a lead funnel, that's very bottom of the funnel, and that means that they're like ready right now. And you might have a more aggressive campaign on those, where if it's Facebook and Google pay-per-click, you're going to take more of a slow approach. You're not going to like inundate them, because their intent wasn't super high, right? Like, you're just on Facebook, you saw a pretty home, you clicked on it, and now I'm signed up for something. And I was only like aware that there was this home for sale. I wasn't considering buying a home or had made a decision to buy a home. So I will say that, your more bottom of the funnel qualified leads should have a more aggressive or assertive campaign, where your more top middle of the funnel leads should have a slower paced campaign so that you don't scare the lead off. And it's more of like, hey, where are you window shopping? That kind of thing. So start with where you're at and just move forward. The other thing I would say is done makes more money than perfect, right? Like, just get started. get something in there. Most CRMs will have a couple campaigns pre-written that you can then customize, right? So just go in there, tweak it, start using it, and then you can change it later or write something super custom. I also know that there's a lot of people that you can hire to do this for you, right? So depending on the system that you use, there are people out there that will write action plans for you and create them for you within your CRM. That might be worth your time, right? If your highest and best use of your time is making calls, setting appointments, going on appointments, writing contract, closing deals, when you don't like writing action plans, hire someone else to do it. Absolutely. Don't get bogged down in those, $15 an hour tasks, because we all know as real estate agents, the highest and best use of our time puts us at a very high price per hour. So, wow, we're moving right along. Number 5. Let me go back to here. Number 5. After all of that, right? So let's go. They're in the right stage. We've logged the call and updated our notes. We've made sure that they're on an EAlert, and we've added them to an action plan or a drip campaign. Now we need to remind ourselves to follow up with them. This blows my mind, is that people think that they're going to remember.
Yeah. So one of the things I do, Chrissy, is when I create a task for myself, when I know I've got to follow up, like in that task, I write the things that I know I'm going to need to know. So if I have a specific question that didn't get answered in that call that we had talked about, then I'm writing that stuff in that follow-up task that's getting written up. I'm calling to figure out if they've talked to the lender. And go through all these different things. So when I call, I know what I'm talking about.
That's a really great tip. Hopefully you guys heard that. So one of the things that Terry does is when he logs the follow-up, he has a little reminder of what he's going to ask them on that next call. That's great, because you get the task, right? You're like, okay, I get the task. And then you just go, straightforward right into, hey, you don't have to go through and read all of the notes from, Like, it just makes you more efficient. But the best thing is that you're not going to drop the ball on that lead. Like, you're going to remember to do it. Right? It's so critical that you don't operate from a place of in your head, but that you systematize this, because again, ideally, you never have to question, who am I going to call today? You're actually going to go into your CRM, and your CRM is going to say, hey, these are the people that you need to call today. You can do a lot of different type of tasks. There can be tasks for calls. There can be tasks for doing a CMA, for writing a note, a birthday, a home anniversary, to send an email,
a text message.
Yeah. Are you still coming into town? There's a lot of different ones. And just to piggyback on one of the going back to the stages, in our stages, we identify, so let me just go back a couple slides. In our stages, we actually identify how often we're going to, let's go to this one, how often we are going to follow up with that person, right? So new, we call right away. We move, and this is more for us, but again, you'll make these same definitions. Qualify, we're calling our qualified leads every day or every other day, right? Like, they're getting multiple calls. Someone that's active, how often do you call your active leads, Terry?
It all depends on what they're,
how far down the pipeline.
Yeah, it all depends on what's going on in them. But like normally, probably about every 3 days, I'm talking to them.
Yeah, so his ready go clients, he's calling frequently, like every 3 days, and those are probably more your prime leads.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that's more his hot leads. Your warm leads. So your short term, long term.
Probably once a week. Once a week, I reach out to my active people and visit with them, unless I know it's different, and then I set my follow-up.
Yeah. So as your stages will also reflect your follow-up time, right? Like your short-term nurtures, you are probably talking to them every week to 2 weeks, because you're moving them through and getting them pre-qualified, doing all those things. Your hot clients, you guys are talking every single day, right? Like it's ongoing. That lead that's not going to buy until next year.
4 months from now.
Yeah. So you're probably going to follow up with them every 30 to 60, days. And that's, really important for you to have that in your head. if I'm in this category, this is how frequent I reach out, unless they tell me, hey, I'm going to Europe for 2 weeks or 2 months. Yeah, I've had that happen where they say, hey, I'm traveling for the next 6 weeks. And then I'll put a reminder to follow up with them, at that time. So, where's my mouse? There we go. So we talked about the follow-up, and that's a big, big one. So again, remember that every lead should have these. Now, so those are the 5 things. And I have to just kind of let people know that this is hard to implement because it requires behavior change, right?
Yeah.
And if you only do this once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month, are you really going to get good at it?
No.
This takes, in my opinion, you should be doing this 3 to 4 times a week. Now, I'm in my system every single day unless I'm not working that day, right? So if I take the day off, I'm not in my system. But otherwise, I've got the MLS open and I've got my database, CRM open, and I'm working through it every single day. So I want you to think about the old way of how you've been managing your database, when I say database, I mean your CRM, how you've been managing the people in your CRM, how you've been following up with leads. What are some of the, identify some of the things that are not working. Now I've explained to you a new way to do things. That's all the things that I explained are going to help you increase conversion. So the first thing that I'm going to suggest is that you get yourself into a lead follow-up schedule. Like, figure out when you do this, right? Is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Is it every morning? I do it from 9 to 10. You have to, only you're going to know what works in your schedule. But if you don't put it in your schedule and you think it's going to happen, you're just lying to yourself. Like, I hate to be that blunt, but that's what's happening, is that you're just, if it's not in your schedule, it doesn't happen. Or even worse, you put it into your schedule and then you just ignore it when it pops up as a reminder on your calendar, which I know we all have been guilty of. So you have to make this a priority. I'll also tell you that it's going to take probably 6 weeks for this to become habitual. And not that like 6 weeks makes a habit, but 6 weeks to get your people into the right rhythm, right? Because again, when we call, we know when we're going to call again. So in the beginning, if you've got 500 people in your system, if you've got, Terry's, I think he's got 1,500 to 2,000. I don't even know. You've got a ton, right? Like, if you're starting from 0 and you've got 1,500 people, it's going to take time to weed through, right? You could be sitting with 500 people in lead status, right? Well, you're not just going to go throw all those people in archive. You're going to see the lead, call them, or you're going to be like, oh my gosh, you're going to figure out where they're at. So we got a question that came in. I love that she's asking questions. Okay. What do you recommend when you are a husband-wife team? Do you recommend we both log into the CRM and update, or have only one of us do it? So that's a really great question. So Meryl and I, husband and wife team, when we started out, we actually used the same database, right? So we had a BoomTown account that our broker gave us, and we used one profile. It was a picture of us, and the email signature said, Christine Merrill, for all the automated things like that. And then when I would send an email through the system, I would just say Christy, so we worked out of one system, and our tasks, we would put an M or a K next to it. Eventually we outgrew that, and currently we have 2 slots. So it's one CRM, but we're 2 separate people. And so he has the leads that he's working with, and I have the leads that I'm working with. When we have a lead that we're working together, we're both on that lead. So you can do it both ways, but you do need to figure out who's doing what, right? So if you're making the calls, you should be entering the notes. You know what I mean? That would be very hard to keep up to date if one person's doing something and the other person doesn't know about it. So it really brings home, that cohesive communication. So yes, you can work out of the same account, or you guys could have, 2 seats in one account that, kind of signifies if this person's working with this leads. We do work a lot of leads together, and we still have separate profiles, but I'll put myself as like the buyer's agent and put him as the listing agent. It doesn't matter who's really the listing agent or the buyer's agent. We're both on that lead, so we can both communicate and update the lead, and the other person can see what we've done with that lead. Even if you're not a husband and wife team, but you have an ISA that's helping you, same thing, right? You've got to figure out, how do I know when the ISA is going to do something? So again, we would use a task that just said, call, and then an M next to it, and Merrill knew that was his task. And so you can figure out a couple different hacks. It just depends on the system that you're using. Lori, tell me, what system do you guys use? I might be able to give you a better explanation. What's the CRM that you guys are using? Comment in there. So next, I want to talk about developing a routine in your CRM. This one is super important. So, perfect, KV Core. Yeah. So if you have a team account, then you can both be on there. If you don't have a team account, that's okay. It kind of depends on where you guys are at. When Meryl and I first were together, it was just the two of us, and working out of one account worked. As soon as we went into a team account, I was like, yeah, I want to get out of your profile and I want into my own. I want out of your mess and I want to be in myself. So if you guys are just going to stay together, you can work out of one account, and that's really easy. And just remember to put your initial next to the task if you're going to do it. And you can also use the hashtags. So that's also a really great idea, to use the hashtags that it's your lead or it's his lead in the same account. And then if you guys are going to grow a team and you move to a team account, then yes, you guys can have your own separate accounts. So, okay, let's talk about the routine, or the daily routine within the CRM. So the daily routine is, you're going to start by checking your inbox, right? So what that means is you're sending emails out of the system, and emails are coming into the system. So you're going to get a notification, and it's called your inbox. Your inbox could also include text messages that came in, someone that requested a showing, somebody that, so same thing. Our CRM allows you to add another to see the notes via email. That's a great tool as well. You can usually find some hacks around this. So your inbox is one of the first things that you're going to do, because your inbox might also let you know if you have a new lead. So figure out what that looks like within your CRM, but go into your inbox, respond to everybody that raised their hand, that, favorited a property and said they were interested in a showing. Then you're going to go to your tasks, right? And your tasks, you'll have tasks because you're constantly assigning yourself follow-up tasks. So this is the other caveat I will tell you. If you guys are going to do like a massive import, don't start everybody on the same day. The worst thing ever is to log in and you've got 200 calls to make, because you put all of your past clients on a drip campaign that puts you in a call. So when you apply your drip campaigns that have calls, you want to stagger them out, especially with your past clients. The goal would be that you call your entire past clients every quarter. So you're going to want to make that a little bit more even, right? So that's like 5 to 10 calls a week, so that you can call through. So don't start a big chunk of people on an action plan at the same time, because then when you log in, all of a sudden you're going to see that you've got a ton of calls. And then that's overwhelming, and that's how agents fall behind. So complete your tasks. Then I want to talk about filters, or they're called smart segments, but it's basically like when you filter through your leads, you can create favorited, right? Either they're called call filters, smart segments, quick searches, different things like that. But it's basically filtering through leads. You want to start calling through your new leads, your qualified leads, your hot leads, your leads that, there's so many different filters that you could set up. And I'm going to give you a couple different ideas. So you're going to clear through your call filters, and then you're going to hunt for business. So I go in, my routine is I clear out my inbox, right? Then I go do my tasks. Then I clear out my call filters, or my quick searches. And then I hunt for business. Well, how do I hunt for business? Well, has anybody been on the website that I haven't spoken to in the past couple days, right? Who favorited a property last night? Did anybody send a property to somebody else? Or do I have any new listings, like checking the hot sheet? Do I have any new listings that have come on that are going to be good for one of my clients, right? So that's hunting for business. Now, you may not get through all of those 4 steps in your time, right? But you're going to do the best that you can. We're not going to ignore the people, the inquiries, the text messages and emails that came in. That's why we check that off. Then I've got to clear those tasks of the people that I said I would call. Then I got to make as many calls as I can in my hour. And so I may not always get to the hunt for business, but the hunt for business is when you get through your calls early. You definitely want to go back through and look for business. And then I'm also going to recommend that you create days by design. I think, Terry, you do this. What are your lead follow-up days?
So my lead follow-up days are the days I'm working from home, because when I come into the office, I'm usually have tasks that I'm doing. So my lead follow-up days are Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so that's when I usually set them up.
So so he said his lead follow-up days are Tuesdays and Thursdays because he typically works from home on those days. And so when do you schedule your calls? You schedule them for Tuesday and Thursday. Exactly.
So when I'm going through and I'm like, I need to follow up with these people. This is when I'm setting that in November. And when it's in my follow-up call in November, I know, don't put it on a Wednesday.
Exactly.
Because that's a team meeting day. That's probably showing in the afternoon. It's not going to work. But right when I send my kids off to school and my wife heads off to work, I'm by myself. I have time right then and there to do my follow-up. And so that's when I do it.
Okay, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You're the model student, Terry. So looking ahead, he said he knows he's going to call this lead the next time in November. He knows that, he's not going to call on a Wednesday because that's a team meeting day, right? So for me, I do the same thing. If I have to make myself a follow-up call, I don't schedule mine for Tuesdays and Thursdays because those are my coaching days and I'm completely swamped. The only time I would schedule a follow call for a Tuesday or Thursday is if they specifically said, hey, I need you to call me Tuesday at 5. And then I would set the task for that. So, plan ahead. Like if you don't work Sundays, don't schedule follow-up calls for Sunday because then you're just going to log in on Monday and be ticked off that you've got all these past due reminders. Don't set yourself up for failure like that. Like just, look ahead. So, okay. Just to give you some ideas, this is what I'm talking about with the accountability filters. We create shortcuts to help us hunt for business and to know who to call, right? So these filters or these shortcuts, they're going to help you identify leads that need your attention, right? So I mentioned leads that are active on the website that you haven't called, right? Well, if someone's searching on your website, you definitely want to call, like that's important. How about leads without an EAlert, right? It happens to the best of us. A lead comes in, we're super busy, and maybe we didn't have time to completely log all of our notes, or we logged our note but we forgot. So have one that says, hey, show me all the leads that don't have an EAlert, right? What about leads without a task? That's a really important one because I will tell you, when you're making your calls and then you hang up and you log the notes, sometimes you will forget, you get distracted and you will forget to set a reminder task. So by having a shortcut filter, you can quickly pull up and be like, oh my gosh, I just spoke to that person yesterday. I can't believe I forgot to put a follow-up task, right? This is how we make sure nobody gets left behind. And then, something like maybe leads that you haven't called in the past 30 days, right? Like, something like that just to see. And then leads without an action plan, right? So again, every lead should be on some sort of an action plan. We have some very generic ones like the buying process, the selling process, getting our email market newsletter from the things that we do. So everybody should be on an action plan. An action plan's not going to contradict what you're saying and what you're doing. It's generic enough that it's just that extra touch in between. So the reason you want to take time and set up these filters is because you can identify people that need attention, whether through maintenance. So, we mentioned that leads stay in the qualify status for 30 days. Well, what happens after 30 days? We have a little filter that says move. So we know we're going to move this lead into archive, or we're going to move it into a different one because it comes up and it tells us. So the accountability filters are just something that's going to really help take your CRM to the next level. One of the other, I wanted to just drop a couple other helpful setup tips. And if you have specific questions about this, please feel free to reach out to me, DM me, email me, let me know, because I see a lot of CRMs and I've helped a lot of people set this stuff up. So a couple things is you want to create your tags ahead of time, right? In KV Core, it's called a hashtag. A lot of places they're called tags. And it basically is going to, in fact, I think I have an example. Here are some of the tags that we use. And this is like a fraction of them. But tags help you sort through your leads quickly, right? Show me all the leads that are looking in Queen Creek because the most amazing Queen Creek home just came up, and I pull all my Queen Creek homes. I can grab all my Queen Creek buyers. I grab them and then I send them an email, right? Like or I send them a text message, right? So there's a lot of things I can do. You're also going to want to set up your text templates and your email templates for quick responses. If you find yourself answering the same question over and over, set up a template. So this one that I'm showing you guys right here, and I know this is pretty small. I apologize for that. Actually, I think I can make it fully big. So, we've got probably 100 plus of these. You can see, like, when someone responds, we're just looking. Well, we've got a text response. We can say, oh, are you window shopping? Or if they say we're just window shopping, then we send them this just looking, right? We've got all of these text message ones and email ones that are going to help us respond quickly. So do yourself a favor and set up those quick responses so that you're not typing the same information in over and over, right? Like, do you have a lender one? You know what I mean? Like, do you have a home warranty one? Do you have, some of those different ones? I'll also say, like, most of these tools have a mobile app, and that mobile app could really save your bacon because it's rare. I mean, Terry works from home on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I'm sure he makes a call on a Monday. Yep. And he's going to log it in his CRM. He uses the mobile app to help him work more efficiently and to log those calls. So get familiar with the mobile app, definitely utilize it. The other one that's a helpful tip that you want to do is to use the dialer if it has one. Some, like, KV Core integrates with Mojo, BoomTown integrates with Mojo, CINC has a built-in dialer, Sierra Interactive has a built-in dialer, FollowUp Boss also communicates with Mojo. The dialer is such a great tool to expedite lead follow-up. So we don't typically do lead follow-up on a triple line dialer. Like if we were calling expireds or if we were circle prospecting, we would use a triple line dialer. But for lead follow-up, even just a single line dialer is going to make it go by so much faster because you're not hand dialing every single lead. It just goes from the next lead. And typically these systems will show you and pop up notes. And so I recommend that you get comfortable using the dialer because, again, if you can bust through these calls, that gives you more time to do other things, right? Whether it's be with your family or, do some other type of prospecting. It's just going to be more efficient that way. So I definitely recommend that you look and see if your system has a dialer. And if it has a dialer, then look at learning how to use it. So here's some examples of the tags. I love using the tags. It makes so much sense to track business and time frame and all of the lead milestones and things like that. So this is a graph that I saw at a conference, a long time ago. And I love the visual representation. I have basically gone through these 5 things that are going to revolutionize, if you will, your CRM. And so most of you guys are probably sitting on the plateau of complacency. You're like, oh, I'm just like, okay, or I'm not sure I want to take this on because behavioral change sometimes sucks. I have to learn it. Actually, a lot of people I work with, they just are intimidated by technology too. They're like, oh, I just don't know if I can use this. So I'm asking you to jump off the cliff with me and try something new. You're going to feel very uncomfortable. You're going to be in this valley of despair for a while, and it's going to be painful because you're creating new neural pathways, you're learning new skills, and you're moving things through. But I promise that you'll get to a point, you'll get up to this mountaintop of relief when you look at your CRM 6 weeks from now. You're not going to have those painful feelings of, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I wish this was just organized. I kid you not. So many people have on their action item list, organize my database. Organize my database. Whether you've been in the business for a day or 20 years. I mean, I'm coaching a woman who's super successful, been doing this for over 17 years. One of her first action items is, I need to get a CRM and I need to organize my database, right? Like, she's super successful. Her life could be a lot easier had she just been doing some of these things. So just to recap, if you have any questions about these 5 things, let me know. I'm happy to shoot you a message and let you know what this looks like in your CRM. But every lead needs to be in the right stage, because that's going to help you know when I need to follow up and what action plans that they get. If it doesn't happen in the CRM, it didn't happen. Log every single call and update your notes. Then let's get them off of all of these, big box EAlert sites. Let's get them into our MLS. Let's get them into our system with my face in their inbox every single day. They need to be getting EAlerts. And don't try to do it all yourself. Technology can be such a blessing. So get them on action plans, get them on drip campaigns. Start with one and build them out. A year from now, you will thank yourself when 80% of the automation is happening and all you have to do is make the calls, right? And then, of course, let's leave no lead behind by making sure that you have follow-up reminders or tasks set so that everybody is moving through the pipeline. Now, again, I end every single class with one of my favorite quotes. Either you're going to find, if you really want to do something, you're going to find a way. Otherwise, you will find an excuse, right? Like it just happens, right? Oh, but I was busy. Oh, I had this. This is actually one of the excuses that I hear most often is I've got a couple clients that are taking up a lot of my time. I've got some really high maintenance clients. They're taking up a lot of my time. So I wasn't able to get to this. I wasn't able to get to that, right? Let's not give credit to these excuses. It just takes 30 minutes a day, right? I guaranteed if you looked at your phone and tracked your screen time, you blew 30 minutes yesterday on something. This is actually going to help you make more money. So, lastly, if you are not a member of our Resilient Realtor Facebook group, absolutely would love for you to join. We are dropping helpful tips every single week. We're teaching different classes. In fact, next week we have a class all about open houses. So it's going to be at 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Terry Cottle is going to be teaching the class. He is a master converter when it comes to open houses and just kind of getting people through that process. So make sure that you join our Resilient Realtor Facebook group. Make sure you check our classes. And of course, as always, the slides are going to be at bighelpertraining.com. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I appreciate you guys taking an hour out of your time to learn how to increase conversion within your CRM. Guys, have a great weekend. Go sell some homes.